Ini bininging at about 8:15 a.m. We arrived to the Pasir Ris Dbest Fishing Pond. We brought light gears along with the live stream that we bought there for $5 a 100 gram. We casted our first live stream 15 minutes later. In about an hour, it was our first fish of the day.
He caught a fish.
It was a mangrove jack, weighing about a kilogram or less.
That's cute. That's cute. Hello YouTube, I am Hafiz and thank you for clicking on this video to watch the Catch and Cook channel. So we went out fishing and we caught some sea bass. And thanks to the fisherman who donated his sea bass to us, we were able to come up with this dish. Well, in videos to come, I will come up with a lot more other videos related to cooking fish, basically catch and cook. So let's get on to the ingredients. I'll show you what the ingredients are to cook this dish called sea bass Assam Pedas. Let's roll on and move on to the video to watch the cooking. Thank you. Okay, so we will start with the ingredients preparations. Okay, so we have tamarind, lachan, onion, laksa leaves, and dried chili. Most importantly, you must remove the seeds. Otherwise, you will get seeds all in your broth. Okay, so we're gonna add them all up. Ready for the blender. We add in the onions, the garlic, the ginger, and then we have to add some water later on. And then of course the dried chili has to go in. Once everything is in, we add some water, not too much maybe, just a little bit. Just just enough so that you can actually puree all the ingredients together. So while preparing for that, we can actually heat up some oil. Turn up the heat, and it's important that the oil is really hot when you fry. So here's a little something that I enjoy to do. I prefer that the belacan, which is a shrimp paste, be fried before we add all the other ingredients. Okay, so at this point, we just what we call fry the puree. And it's important that when you fry the puree, it has to go down all the way till the puree is a little dry. Okay, so the trick is if you want your Assam Pedas to last a couple of days or longer without having to go to refrigeration, this stage is very crucial. Make sure that when you fry them, from looking like it's soupy and too watery, it becomes all the way dry. Well, all the way dry, but at this point you have to watch out. Make sure that it's dry but not burned. Because there's a fine thread, there's a fine line between burn and having it dry. So in this case, we are using a pressure cooker. Not necessarily that you have to use a pressure cooker, but it does help in reducing the cooking time. Okay, at this point, we just turn off the heat because I wanted to check how the puree is doing. Okay, so as I'm stirring the puree, it's beginning to turn out to look just right. But give it some more time, I'll show you what I mean when it's dry. So here you can see that it's a little drier than when we first added the puree in. But give it some time. Give it more time. Okay, so when you try to fry the puree and waiting for the ingredients to dry, it's important that you just keep on stirring. Here you can see how the oil has separated from the chili, and now we get a really nice deep red chili paste. See how it's goopy. Okay, so moving on, we mix some tamarind with water. So this will give you just enough of the sour taste that you're looking for in your Assam Pedas. Do not add too much unless you prefer, a much more sour Assam Pedas. Okay, so we squeeze out the tamarind. We just want the water in. So normally I'll just use a handful of tamarind. Okay, then you continue to stir. Add a bit more water so we get a soupy consistency that we are looking for. Some people like them thick. I prefer them a little thinner. But do not add too much water. Just enough like when you get not that oat-like kind of consistency, but more like a soupy kind of consistency. Turn up the heat and let it roll. Okay, so here comes, when it comes to adding the fish, the soup or the broth or whatever that you call them, it has to be in a rolling boil. Then we add in the fish. And once all the fish has been added, then we just want to add a little bit more salt. So for those of you who are not MSG conscious, feel free to add that MSG. It gives you that added flavor that you're looking for. Okay, now here comes the part when we add the laksa leaves. Okay, so when we add the laksa leaves, just turn down the heat. And then you add the laksa leaves. And just let it sit. You do not want to boil the laksa leaves. You just let it sit. It will soften up, it will do its thing. And when it's ready, it will turn from a light green to a darker green. And you can smell, the whole kitchen will smell the aroma of asam pedas. And that's when you know it's pretty much ready to go. Okay, just something that I want to add on. For those of you who doesn't like the asam pedas to be too hot, here's an advice. Add a bit more oil, fry the chili well, fry them longer. The longer you fry, the less hot it will be. So here we go, it's almost done now. Now check that out. You'll know the fish is ready when the flesh has turned white. However, for bigger fish or thicker cut of fish, if you're not too confident, give it a bit more time. And also be gentle when handling the fish. So put in the plate, add in some of the broth, and it's ready to go. So it's best eaten with rice. Really, I really recommend that you have rice and a bit of soy sauce, and it's really wonderful.